Hello and welcome to the Watering Hole. Thanks for checking out this clip. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that'll make the baby Jesus cry, and I know how much you guys love making the baby Jesus cry. 30 more Republicans must sign a letter before committee investigates State Superintendent Ryan Walters, who, if you'll recall, is the guy that wants to... I think he's the one that's trying to force teachers to teach from the Bible.
I don't remember, but I know there's a negative association in my brain with his name.
I'm pretty sure that's him. So like a bunch of school boards are like pushing back on him for that. And he's sticking to his guns. But this was sent to me by Scott, who sent a few items. Say this one? No, that was me. I found that on my own. This one is Scott.
You did it.
Yay. Sometimes I do my own work.
Every now and again. Once in a while.
Oh, that Scott used Next Benedict's death to say LGBT plus is bad. Gross. Gross. Yeah, there we go. There's this Scott. That's the Scott.
Scott Delahunt.
That's the one.
Yeah.
I thought you used your last name in chat, but I couldn't quite remember, so I didn't want to say it if I wasn't sure. Anyway, 21 Republican lawmakers have already signed a letter that calls for a committee to investigate State Superintendent Ryan Walters and the Oklahoma State Department of Education. That committee could ultimately recommend that Walters be impeached. And House Speaker Charles McCall has to form the investigation committee, and he said that he would if 51 Republicans signed on. So they've got 21, they just need 30 more.
I feel like asking specifically Republicans to sign for that is weird because of all the party line shit that we have to deal with.
I feel like the fact that they already have 21 that signed on with that, it just speaks to how shitty this guy is if 21 Republicans are willing to call him out for it.
I mean, it's definitely a better sign.
But also, this isn't about his blatant violation of the First Amendment by forcing teachers to teach from the Bible, which, can I just say, I really want to be a teacher in Oklahoma if that were actually enforced.
Because then you'd be like, all right, we're going to teach from the Bible today. Today we're going to learn about Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm sure your parents are going to be so happy we're talking about that.
Well, so that's one of the things that Hemant Mehta brought up in his talk at BajaCon, was that he used to be a math teacher. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, it's like this guy has said that all teachers must include teaching from the Bible as part of their curriculum. And his conclusion from that was like, what am I supposed to even use for that in math class? This means I have to take time out of other math stuff. And I'm like, whoa, hold up. That's when you bring out the fact that in the Bible, pi equals 3. So you can be like, this is how pi is calculated. According to the Bible, pi is equal to 3. So we can see from here that it's actually wrong. It's 3.14, blah, 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 blah. So that's when you can... That technically counts as a lesson from the Bible.
You technically did.
Yeah.
Yep. You technically did it.
Yeah. And they won't like that. And I understand that there are apologetics for the pi thing that actually make sense, as opposed to most apologetics that are bending over backwards and doing mental gymnastics. But like the pi one is just like, yeah, no, there's a brim there that they don't tell you how wide it is, nor do they tell you which side of the brim they're measuring from. So it could work out if it's like the other side or something, which is like, yeah, okay, fine. But
God is not the author of confusion.
That's the only math that's in the Bible, really.
It's great.
Scott Delahunt says, today's lesson is how to recycle. Paper goes into blue can. Thunk. Anyway, so yeah, if they decide to move forward with this impeachment thing, Walter says this would be an unprecedented move in state history to undermine the will of Oklahoma voters. Because every time a Republican doesn't get what they want,
it's the will of the voters.
Every time they do something wrong and get investigated for doing something wrong, you're undermining democracy. The Democratic Party replaces an old guy with a comparatively young woman who gets the base excited, and that's undermining democracy, even though clearly more people are happy about that than Joe Biden. But yeah, and say the lawmakers allege failures to communicate with the legislature, not fulfilling records requests, and not carrying out past legislation. So those are things that are required by the job.
So he's not getting impeached for doing the things that are really, really bad. He's being impeached for sucking at his job.
Yeah, he's being impeached for just not being good at his job. Well, not just not being good at his job, but like being actively negligent at his job. Yeah,
straight up just not doing his job.
Yeah.
Does that mean we can impeach Marjorie Taylor Greene? I don't know how much of her job she actually does.
Oh, probably. It's, also, like, again, this is just, like, they're not even voting on an impeachment or anything yet. This is just, like, them deciding whether or not a committee should be formed to investigate whether or not he could potentially be impeached. The committee will then either recommend yes or no on impeachment. So, like, nothing has even happened yet, and even if the committee is formed, that says nothing about him being impeached. It's just like, maybe they will recommend impeachment in the future. But still.
This is the start of starting.
Yeah, so Walters remains defiant, accusing Republican lawmakers of teaming up with Democrats. It's like, no. Do you remember, like, the purpose of the government is to govern, to get things done, to work together to accomplish shit. Yes, the divide into parties is supposed to be like, we disagree about how to get things done, but we all agree that things should get done. And there are certain things that are supposed to cross party lines that, like, yeah, we all agree that, like, we should maintain the bridges so they don't fall down while people are on them.
We should protect children from predators. Like, these are things we should be able to agree on.
These are supposed to be bipartisan things. But they're like, no, the Democrats voted to maintain the bridge so people don't die. I shall vote against it because I am against the Democrats because they are socialists.
Did you just Zoidberg saying socialists?
Maybe.
They're socialists. I guess it's somewhere between Zoidberg and a Gungan.
I was thinking more like a Richard Nixon.
Richard Nixon looks kind of like a Gungan.
Like the Simpsons version of Richard Nixon that always goes...
Oh, yeah. Also the Futurama version of Richard Nixon.
I mean, Matt Groening, same
idea.
Yeah. So then he says, these folks that do whatever the teachers' unions tell them to, heaven forbid we listen to a teachers' union when it comes to, like, things that teachers need. Heaven forbid.
It remember, though, these people also tend to think that any kind of union at all that's not like the police union is bad.
Not Zoidberg. I can't do the Zoidberg voice, but...
Funnily enough, he never actually said why not Zoidberg in a single episode. He said why not several times, but never the full statement.
Okay. But yeah, no, they want to bring back an era of the teachers' unions controlling our schools. I mean, they're not going to control the schools, but, like, absolutely the teachers' unions should have significant say in the things
their jobs
directly affect teachers and how they're supposed to teach and shit. Like, is it a bad thing to want to make sure that the people who are in charge of preparing the next generation for life are like well compensated and happy and have the resources they need?
It's terrible. We shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I know. That seems to be the Republican stance.
Yeah, no, just it's like, awful. How dare they want to be compensated for their job?
The thing I've never understood is the people that are like, oh, I don't have any kids that are in school, so why should I be paying taxes that go to the schools? It's like, because when you're old and need a doctor, you want the person who is inevitably going to be younger than you, that is your doctor, to have had a good education, I would think.
Yeah, you benefit from being in an educated society more than being in a non-educated society, which is why it's crazy to me that Project 2025 wants to do everything in their power to get rid of the Department of Education.
Like, just straight up eliminate the department?
Yes, they want to get rid of the Department of Education, and they want to try to push as hard for private schooling as humanly possible.
Political science professor at the University of Oklahoma said House lawmakers don't need to prove a crime was committed if they were to impeach or have the Senate remove Walters from office. What rises to the level of impeachment is a little different. It's broader. Alleged incompetence, alleged willful neglect of duties. It doesn't have to be high crimes and misdemeanors. So that's the thing with impeachment of any public official. Keep in mind that like impeachment is not a criminal proceeding. It like high crimes and misdemeanors doesn't even have to be like, that's actually constitutionally speaking, that's a different definition than just like committed a crime. Like there are things that are not technically crimes that still count as high crimes and misdemeanors for the purposes of impeachment. Remember, being a public servant is you're supposed to be serving the public. It is your job. This is a job that you have, and it's a job that you're placed there to serve the public. So if you're not serving the public, if you are doing the opposite of that, you can be found to not be performing your job adequately. And what happens...
Impeachment is literally just supposed to be, we found that wrongdoing happened.
Yeah.
We just found that wrongdoing happened. It doesn't have to be legal wrongdoing. It can be job negligence wrongdoing.
Yeah. You're bad at your job, you're fired. That happens all the damn time to Americans working regular jobs, but somehow when it's civil service, when you're literally a servant to the public, suddenly they feel entitled to these jobs. Like, oh, it would undermine the will of the people to fire me for gross negligence and incompetence at my job. It's like, okay, well, the people didn't like... I'm not even sure if this is an elected position. It might be. I don't know. Like, are superintendents elected in some places?
Fairly certain they're selected by governors.
Okay,
but I could be wrong.
So this isn't. If it's selected by governors, then this isn't even an elected position. But like, even if it was an elected position, that just means that we didn't know you would be negligent and incompetent when we hired you for the job. Now we've hired you. We found out that you are. You're fired. That's not undermining the will of the people.
Effective teaching license.
Wait, the civil servant thing is a sovsit argument, saying that the civil servants are supposed to serve the public?
Well, guess what? If the sovsits happen to say that the sky is blue today, I'm not going to disagree with them because they said the sky is blue. I don't care. If a statement is correct, the statement is correct regardless of the dipshit it originates from. Sovsits are collectively dipshits.
Yes, I agree.
But if they are right, if they have the whole like you're supposed to be a civil servant thing, I'm sorry, but that is correct.
I feel like from a sovsit that would be a like when they are about to be pepper sprayed by the police. You're like, you're not supposed to hurt me because you're a civil servant. You are my servant. I think that they're okay. So this sounds like more the kind of thing like you're going into like the DMV or something, being like, "You are my servant, so you must do as I say." And so just like being dicks, being dicks to these people that are
like the First Amendment auditors.
Yeah, like they take it a step further from like, I am your boss technically, so like you have to actually do a good job at your job, and take it to like because you are a public servant and I'm a member of the public, you must treat me as though I am your literal master right now in this interaction, which like those are very different things.
I will say one of my favorite versions of that interaction's actually in Rick and Morty, where the United States president, Rick and Morty are having an argument and Morty's just like, I learned about your job in school. You're a civil servant. Technically I'm your boss. And the president just starts laughing at him. Like, that's about what you'd get in most of those situations when you try that argument.
Yeah, but at the same time, there is a kernel of validity there where they are supposed to be serving the public. Now, of course, that does not mean that every member of the public can boss them around. That means they have to do their best to actually carry out their job faithfully. Which, in the case of a school superintendent, means that like they have to do the shit that this guy isn't doing, like carrying out past legislation and filing the required records requests and communicating with the legislature, because that's part of the job. So when I say they are public servants, therefore they are the servants of the public, I don't mean that in any member of the public can demand that they like clean their house or whatever the fuck.
I'm gonna be like, all right, Brian Kemp, I need you to come and clean my dishes.
Next time you get a politician knocking on your door asking for your vote, be like, oh, you want to be a public servant? Show me how good a servant you can be. Do my dishes. Fold my laundry.